Welcome to the RISC Challenge, Relationship, Intimacy, Sex, and Communications, where you discover ways to have more love, more sex, and less fighting. Featuring relationship experts Christian Peterson and Sonica Tinker. Brought to you by the Mankind Project USA.
All right, hello everyone. Welcome to the RISC Challenge, sponsored by the Mankind Project USA. My name is Michael Russer, and I'm the Mankind Project Online Training Program Manager. Now, before we get started, I want to take a moment to introduce our very insightful and entertaining RISC Challenge leaders. Sonica Tinker, MSW, and Christian Peterson, a loving husband-wife team, are relationship experts with over 30 years combined experience coaching and leading seminars, helping thousands of couples and singles to dramatically improve their relationships. Sonica is a certified NLP professional, certified Enneagram teacher, certified mediator, and author of Seize Your Opportunities and The Good Divorce. Christian is a certified life coach, certified mediator, and a new warrior in the Mankind Project graduate, and author of When You Love Your Woman. They are the founders of LoveWorks, a cutting-edge relationship training company, and are passionately committed to shifting the current relationship paradigm from blame, resignation, and scarcity to one of joyful, expansive, delightful co-creation. They offer a unique, leading-edge relationship solution that is uplifting, lighthearted, and very powerfully effective. Now, I just want to share with you that I've known Christian and Sonica for a few years now, and I've watched the first RISC Challenge. I actually participated in it, and they did an awesome job. They know how to get to the problems of relationship very, very quickly with great insight and help you achieve that more love, more sex, and less fighting in a very, very fun way. So welcome, Christian and Sonica.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Nice presentation. I feel better already. Thank you so much. And hey, big welcome to everybody. And I want to say thank you to Michael and Boysen, you heard Michael just now, and Boysen is also in the background running all the controls, making sure that we can actually talk to you and be with you here from our living room. So welcome to our living room from wherever you're clicking in from.
And thank you for your commitment to your relationship that had you make it a priority to spend this next 75 minutes here with us. And we absolutely promise you're going to get some amazing insights into your relationship today. And you might even hear some things you've never heard before to make a profound difference for your relationship.
Yeah, and Sonica and I, we're relationship experts, and we do this all day, every day. And we're also just another couple who want to have a good time together and who want to make it work and who would like to have more time having fun than arguing. And in that respect, we're just like everybody else. So we want that so much for us, and we want that so much for you.
Yeah, so today here, we're going to share with you the 4 essential relationship principles to revive and deepen your intimacy and your passion. We're going to give you a challenge or a tool, you could say, for each one of the aspects: relationship, intimacy, sex, and communication. That's why we're calling it the RISC Challenge. A bit later in the webinar, for those of you who'd like to work more with us, we'll tell you about a 7-week online webinar course we've developed. But before we jump into all that, we're going to take just a minute here to introduce ourselves so you know who you're hanging out with for this next 75 minutes.
Yeah.
So I'll start by saying Christian and I met about 12 years ago now.
12 years ago now,
on the East Coast at a personal growth course called the Option Institute. We met over breakfast, and by lunchtime it was, I love you. It really was.
That's true.
It was one of those love at first sight kind of experiences, but it wasn't relationship as at first sight. That took a little bit longer.
Yeah, because, in all honesty, if there had been bookmakers on, to giving us odds, we would have gotten awful odds because we were such an unlikely couple to succeed or to make it. We lived in 2 different countries on 2 different continents. I'm from Denmark, in case you're wondering about the accent here. We have a 15-year age difference. Sonica already had 2 kids, so I'm now the stepdad of our 2 kids. And she was just further ahead in life than I was in many ways, simply just starting out.
We always joke around, I was more mature.
Yeah, actually, there is some truth to that too. So for almost 2.5 years, we did a very long distance relationship. You know, we would call each other and email each other like crazy. That was before, you know, you had any reliable Skype or Wi-Fi or iPhones. And we'd visit each other, you know, maybe every few months. And then the visits got longer and longer. And eventually, after about 2.5 years, I moved to California. We got married and, you know, started doing life together. So we now co-parent, and we have 2 kids. Our son is 18. Our daughter is almost 15.
Next month.
Yeah. So.
And our relationship, you know, we have an amazing life, and it hasn't always been easy, to be totally honest. I mean, we've had, just like, you know, most couples, we've had financial challenges, house challenges, health challenges, kid challenges, you name it. We have our kids half time in the split family, so we've been co-parenting with my ex for many years. So we have that whole complication to add to the mix. You know, we've had our share of ups and downs, but even with the challenges and the struggles, we're still best friends and passionate lovers, even with working together full time in our relationship business, living together, parenting together, sharing in life together. We're proud to say that we've been in a steady upward climb.
Yeah, I know. And Sonica and I, we've developed a really effective relationship system, and we've honed this over many years, both through the laboratory of our own marriage and our own experience, and from, you know, the hundreds and thousands at this point of couples and singles we've worked with, both in big groups and in private practice. So, you know, how we make it work for ourselves is we live this stuff in our home. You know, the things we're going to be giving you, we do this at home. Like, we talk to each other like that at home. And that is how we stay connected through all the ups and downs and through the thick and thins, and how we keep our sex life spontaneous and passionate, and how we keep having fun, even though we've been together for many, many years now. And, you know, another thing that I'm proud to declare is that we have entirely eliminated blame and finger pointing and criticism from this relationship. And that just feels so good.
Yeah, and it's not really that we're special or any different than you.
We wish.
We just know what to do when we encounter difficulty or conflicts. You know, I'll just say we were trying to figure out what to do this last weekend, and we kind of had different ideas about it. And, you know, for a lot of couples, that would have escalated into a big blown out fight. And because we know how to resolve conflicts, how to listen to each other, work together, we were able to create a really phenomenal weekend together.
I know, if you really knew us, you'd know that I'm the kind of guy, when we go away on a weekend, I could be happy just, you know, sitting on a mountain somewhere, holding Sonica's hand and getting a decent cup of coffee here and there. It'd be a great weekend. And
I want to go to shows and, you know, do all these activities. So we crafted this perfect weekend that included a little bit of both.
Yeah.
So I wanted to say, you know, we have literally had the privilege of getting to share this innovative relationship work with thousands of couples and singles, actually, through our live trainings, our online home study programs.
Which is how you can know you're pretty safe, because everything we're going to give you, we've actually tested it on thousands of other people, and most of them are still doing fine.
In fact, you know, one of the biggest things people will say when they learn our relationship distinctions and tools and our whole positive, pretty innovative approach to relationship, people say, oh my God, I wish somebody would have told me this when I was 20, because that would have saved so much heartache, frustration, and arguing.
Yeah, seriously. Here, I'll give you a real life story that's an example of how this might work out.
Some friends of ours, actually.
Friends of ours, Linda and Matthew. Matthew is a warrior brother also in the Mankind Project. They'd been married for about 20 years when we met them. They have 4 kids under the age of 16. So, you know, still a lot of family life left there. They had tried working out their struggles and disagreements and problems on their own, and they just hadn't met any lasting success. And they had actually given up and separated. So Matthew now lived in an apartment. You know, they shuffled the kids back and forth on a share schedule. Matthew came to one of our workshops because he thought, you know, even if I can't repair this with my ex, at least I want to learn something different, because I do not want to have this experience ever again if I get into another relationship. And when he came to our workshop, he was so floored by the options and the insight of what he saw, that he thought to himself, wow, man, if we had known this, I wonder if we would not have had to split up. We could have stayed together, maybe. So he went after the workshop, he went and talked to his ex, now at this point his ex Linda, and said, you know, is there any chance you'd be willing to come to this workshop I found and just take it with me, just see what you think? She agreed after some negotiation, and long story short, she had the same experience of, wow, if we had just known this stuff, maybe we could have done it differently. And they took a few other workshops with us, one on sex and one on conflicts. And after about 4 or 5 months, he canceled his apartment. They moved back in together, and this was a couple of years ago, and they've been having a great time living together now, you know, dealing with all the stuff that comes up, being a parent and being parents and co-workers and everything.
Yeah, at a recent event, she actually pulled us aside and said, I can't believe it. She said, we're happier, we're closer to each other than ever, and our sex is even better than it was when we first met.
When we first got together, yeah.
Now, I want to just acknowledge here that we've got couples on this call who are struggling, and maybe this for you is a last-ditch effort to save your marriage, your relationship. Others of you might be here and you're doing pretty well, actually, and you just want to learn some new ways to make your relationship and your sex life even better.
Yeah, and for those of you who are single or between relationships, or you just got out of one, you are equally welcome. What you will get here will totally benefit you in your situation and relationships you are moving towards, if that is your desire.
Yeah, really, wherever you are is fine. And rest assured, whether you're married or not, living together or not, straight, gay, or bi, this webinar is definitely for you. And I will also add that, you know, what we're going to be giving you today, you're going to be able to also apply this with your kids, your co-workers, your friends. I mean, we've had people turn relationships around, even with your exes, you know, just from the material you're going to get here today.
Yeah, so to get the most out of this webinar, do your best to kill off all the other distractions, you know, your phone and your Facebook and everything else. And if you can, get a pad, a paper, and a pen, or maybe your phone or whatever, so you can take notes, because you're probably going to want to do that at least at some point during the webinar here. All right, ready to jump in? We're just going to get started here. So on tonight's webinar, in short form, in bullet form here, we're going to give you, for relationship, we're going to talk about how to make your relationship, how you make your relationships worse while you try to make them better, the domino effect.
And what to do instead.
For intimacy, we're going to show you what intimacy really is and how to have a lot more of it. We call it shadow and gold. For sex, why waiting for the right moment kills your sex and passion. We call it sparks by design. And finally, for the C, communication, we'll give you the biggest reasons why communication break down and what you can do to turn it around. We call that more than words.
And for those of you who would like to go deeper with this material, as I said earlier, we're going to share with you about our 7-week live online RISC course. And at the very end, we're going to give you a simple but powerful technique that you can use in any challenging interaction you have. We're actually going to tell you a story about a couple who used this simple technique, I swear, this is true, to literally go from fighting to hot lovemaking in just a few minutes. So you're going to want to make sure you stay on until the very end, because you're not going to want to miss that simple tool.
Indeed. All right, here we go. The R in RISC is for relationship, the domino effect, how your efforts to make your relationship better actually make it worse. So here we'll tell you by a short story. See if you relate to this.
So Janice and John fell in love, and they had never felt more connected to anyone. Fireworks were going off. They loved to gaze into each other's eyes. They told each other every little secret, and they did everything together. They sent flowers, texts, tweets, love notes, gifts, you name it. They couldn't keep their hands off of each other. They had hot, spontaneous sex in interesting places as often as possible. They felt like they were soulmates. And they decided, of course, at some point to get married because they loved each other so much. And they were educated people, so they knew about the high divorce rate in this country, but they were sure their love would never die, and they would be the exception to this statistic.
You remember those times? Have you had that experience at least once in your life? Yeah, I know we have. So, but about 7 years later, they wondered to themselves, what the heck happened? They barely even liked each other anymore. They bickered so often that it was actually a relief when they had to go to work. They went to bed at different times. They rarely had sex anymore. They were rarely, they hardly even touched each other physically at all. They were feeling so stressed and disconnected most of the time because of this. And because they couldn't see a way to fix it, they were now considering divorce and just, throw it in the towel, at least getting rid of all this tension. And frankly, they were shocked, and so were their friends. How did this soulmate love end in this kind of dysfunction and heartbreak? We call this development that we just described with Janice and John here, the downward spiral of relationship. It's such a common experience that it's actually normal. It's the norm, you could even say.
Yeah, and as we said earlier, right, every single one of us on this webinar here have probably been through some version of this story at least once, many of us more than once. And once we get together with someone, we assume we're going to live happily ever after, and a lot of us are actually sort of shocked when it doesn't, because it's not quite what happens. Instead, more often than not, we fall out of love, we quit having sex, we settle for less than what we really want, and a bunch of us end up divorced or separated.
Yeah, so check this out on the next slide here. You can skip to the next slide. Boysen is our slide master. According to Psychology Today from 2012, the divorce rate for first marriages is 50%. You often hear that number. For second marriages, it's 67%. And for third marriages, it's a mind-boggling 73%. And we added in parentheses, which means we don't get better at it as we go along. And obviously, it's our intention to have it be better the second or third time. So why is this? Like, that is a dismal state of affairs. Why is it like that? So we'll give you a couple of our thoughts about why we think that is. First, no decent or qualified relationship training. Relationship is an odd entity in life. It's one of the few things, along with sex and parenting, where we simply expect that we're going to be experts without ever having practiced anything. And you wouldn't do that with any other area of life. If you wanted to be a mechanic or an attorney or a doctor or whatever, you wouldn't just hang out your shingle and say, here, I'll do surgery on you. Granted, I have no education, but I've seen my parents do it a lot because they were doctors. So yeah, come on in. Like, you'd never do that. And certainly nobody would come to be on your table. It's true we don't have any relationship training, although there is a foundation we all share because we all took a class that was taught by our parents and that lasted for many years. Let's just say 18. And how many of you today would sign up for a relationship class that was taught by your parents? Then we all took a class from Hollywood or social media today as well, which we're ongoingly actually participating in. We all took a class from our high school peers at that very formative and insecure and difficult times of our lives. And of course, we all took a bunch of training from the School of Hard Knocks, enough to be PhDs probably, most of us. So that's the first one. Second one is something called help-seeking lag time. And so here's a quote from Dr. Gottman, you might have heard of. He's a preeminent marital researcher, psychologist. He's the founder of the Love Lab. He discovered that couples wait on average 6 years before seeking counseling to help resolve their relationship problems. You can put up the quote on the slide, Boysen. Which is also crazy. We'll get to number 3 in a moment. That's just crazy because, if you had a serious bellyache that wasn't getting any better, you wouldn't wait 6 years before you went to a doctor or an acupuncturist or whoever your favorite health professional is. You would do something about it. But relationships are kind of odd that way. And then the third one we call the tipping point.
Yeah, the tipping point is that point in relationship where one or both people declare that they're done. And often you don't realize you're at the tipping point until you're on the other side. Unfortunately, we've had many people who have come to us seeking relationship help who are literally thrown for a loop by the fact that their partner came to them and said, I'm done. In fact, we had a really good friend who said, I didn't realize my marriage was in trouble until my wife said, you are moving out today. And that's a really great example of the tipping point. It's like, oh my goodness, that's a point where it's too late often for people to get relationship support. Now, we want to make sure you don't become a divorce statistic. We want to make sure you don't hit that tipping point. So that's why we do this work to support people to make their relationships better.
And here we're going to go into more detail with this, but I just want to say something I forgot to mention in the beginning. I'm sorry for that. Is you'll notice on your webinar interface that you're looking at that you have both a chat button and a Q&A button. Feel free to add your questions or comments using those buttons. If we have time, we'll open it up for Q&A at the end and simply answer questions right there. And if we don't have time, we'll still use your questions and we'll answer them on the Mankind Project's Facebook page in the next week to come here. So feel free to use the Q&A and chat buttons.
All right, great. So let's get on with making our relationships better, shall we? All right. So when you begin to notice, right, so you're in that honeymoon stage where you think your partner is like, you know, they're like a god or a goddess in your love-struck eyes. And then at some point, right, you hit that downward spiral and you don't want it to go bad, right? You want to stay in love. All of us, we have this really positive intention. We want it to stay good and juicy and loving and close and wonderful. So when we start fighting more, or having less sex, or feeling criticized, we want to get it back to where it was before. And one of the ways we do that is we tell our partners what we don't like, what they're doing that's different, what doesn't work, right? Because we're looking at our partners, we can easily see what they're doing differently than they used to do before. So we come at them to tell them.
So we say something like,
you know, you don't listen anymore.
What?
You used to really focus on me and not interrupt me and ask me questions and be really curious.
I'm right here. Hello. Are you like noticing? I'm sitting right here.
And you wouldn't get defensive, and like even right now, I feel like how you're being, it's like you're being all defensive and weird, and you're not really thinking.
Would you like me to repeat every word you just said? I'm listening, all right?
Well, I don't feel like you're really listening or like you want to be. You're just like totally being weird with me.
Well, you know,
really soft and sweet and.
Yeah, and it also used to be a lot easier being soft and sweet, like you call it, because you actually wanted to hear what I had to say. Like now when I tell you what I do think, you just pick it apart and tell me why it's a bad idea or
because I'm talking
why
about
that's
me,
not
and now
the
you're
right
talking
thing and I
about
should be
you, and
thinking something
now
else.
I should be
So why
listening
should
to
I
you.
even bother with
That's
that?
the thing I really hate, is now it's all about you.
And here we go. Off we are to the races. Now we call this, in general, we call this complaining for change. It's like a movement. Complaining for change. Although when I'm the one presenting something like, well, you don't care about what I think anymore, I don't think it's a complaint. I just think that I've noticed a problem and I'm calmly and rationally bringing it to your attention so we can do something about it. But you can be sure to the person who's listening, it sounds like complaining.
And pretty much that is the strategy we all employ to make our relationships better, right? Is I say what isn't working, and I move with it a little bit like I'm delivering a memo, and I really expect it's going to produce a change. But in actuality, it makes it worse.
Because why we expect it's going to produce a change is because we have a fantasy, and it's a fantasy that if she says,
you don't listen to me anymore,
that I'm going to go, oh, really? Honey, that is awful. I'm so sorry to hear that. I must have been such a doofus not to listen to you properly. That's never going to happen again, okay? You're going to have my undivided attention whenever you want to. I'm here for you. Just like that.
I love demoing this.
And has that ever happened in real life? No. And it won't ever happen in real life when someone says, why don't you listen?
And really, that's what keeps us employing the strategy, is we really expect if we complain or we say what isn't working or what we don't like, that our partner is going to get the message, the memo, they're going to change, and we're going to be back, you know, to how it was before. But in actuality, it makes it worse. Our partners get defensive, resistant, they argue against what we're saying, which means we've got to say it again because obviously they didn't get the message. And pretty soon we are in a domino effect of negativity where I keep complaining, you keep resisting, so I got to say it again. And we get caught up in this complaint loop that takes us no place.
That's why we call it the domino effect, because my intentions to bring out a problem so that we can make it better so that we can get back to having fun and being in love, in actuality produces a domino effect of negative responses, and down the hill we go.
That's why talking about problems for a lot of people doesn't work, right? Because it actually makes them worse. It's one thing I really got to see in my previous relationships, right? It's like the more I talk, the worse things got. So what is the solution to this dilemma? Now, it's going to sound pretty simple, but I'll tell you, it can have far-reaching effects in your relationship. We've had people turn their marriages around just from this by itself.
Seriously.
Ready? Quit complaining. Really quit talking about all the stuff you don't like. You need to take your focus off of everything that is wrong and everything you want to change, and quit complaining about it all. Now, it may sound really paradoxical because you still want to deal with your problems, but I tell you, there's a way better way to do that. You're going to learn that later. For now, just quit complaining, even if you don't know what to replace it with yet.
And we'll give you a simple thing to replace it with.
Ready? This is like the most important thing.
We give specific appreciations to your partner. Just like that. Give specific appreciations to your partner. There's no communication technique or relationship strategy where you get more bang for your buck than that. So, specific ones. It's not just I like you, I love you, or thank you. It's for something specific. So, for example, I might say to Sonica, thank you so much for saying yes to doing that little getaway weekend we just did. That just made me so happy that we made it happen, and I really appreciate that you were on board with that.
You're welcome. Thank you very much. And I really want to appreciate you for going with me to that comedy show. And I was laughing hysterically for, 3-4 hours.
Yeah.
That was really fun for me.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Thank you. And thank you so much for reading that fun book while I was driving. That just made the whole ride so much fun. And that was just great you did that. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And hey, thank you for the great sex you initiated. Pretty awesome.
I
appreciate that.
Just like that, something specific. And I want to say, if you're in a stressed situation, maybe you haven't had a getaway for a long time, or you have a hard time coming up with things that are nice to say about your partner, you find something. Seriously, you find something. At the very least, maybe you can say, hey, thank you for not leaving me yet. That's an appreciation. Thanks for hanging in there with me. I appreciate that.
Thanks for watching this webinar. And I'll tell you, when you appreciate, so there's not only are you giving to your partner. So when I appreciate Christian, I'm acknowledging him, I'm giving to him something, I'm feeding the part of him that wants to be seen and loved. But not only that, I give to myself, because I have to look for and notice something I like to be able to appreciate it. So when I appreciate it, it's like I'm giving to myself that I have what I like and what I want at the same time. So it's a very, very powerful, kind of exponentially growing tool to use, because when I give to you, I give to me. When you give to me, you give to both of us. Like, we create an upward spiral in our relationship.
Yeah, and we recommend you do this at the very least. You can't overdo it though, that's great. But at the very least, 3 times before you go to sleep. So I share 3 appreciations just like that. Hey, thank you for making breakfast. I really liked it. Simple stuff. 3 times before you go to sleep. If you don't live together, do it on text or Skype or whatever. And if you're by yourself, seriously, 3 appreciations out loud about yourself. So that's the last thing out of your mouth before you fall asleep.
You know, appreciation is as essential to relationship as water and sun is to a plant. You know, without acknowledgement and appreciation, we wither. Mm-hmm. We get depressed, we get hurt, we get angry, and we start seeking appreciation elsewhere.
Right.
You know, with it, we just get happier. We feel more confident, more loved. We feel special. So, yeah.
And when you think about it, that's all we were doing in the beginning. Although we didn't really do it on purpose. We were just so enamored with everything that all we do is share appreciations and possibilities in the beginning. We hardly spent any time at all talking about the stuff that didn't work and bringing up problems at all.
Yeah, so it's a really great way to recreate that honeymoon stage.
Or at least begin to go in that direction.
Yeah, so to be a master, you got to become, you could think of it as a love hunter.
Yeah.
You know, hunt for those little places in your relationship where your partner's doing something you love and speak it out loud.
Yeah, and just to be perfectly clear here, this is very important. We're not suggesting repeat, we are not suggesting that you don't deal with your legitimate challenges and problems and disagreements, but you can't solve them while you're in the middle of the problem. You know, when you're talking about the problem and all your attention is on the problem and what you don't like, you have to first improve your connection and your environment a little bit before you can have any productive conversations. And then you got to add some other strategies to do that, because the ones you've been using up till now clearly aren't sufficient, because if they were, you would have already solved your problems. Yeah.
So here's your relationship challenge. Quit complaining, quit talking about what doesn't work, what you don't like, and speak 3 appreciations every night before you go to bed.
Yep.
Fastest way to produce positive change.
Seriously, if that's the only thing you remember from this whole webinar, you'll have been well served.
Absolutely.
Just keep doing that and don't ever stop. All right, cool. Let's jump to the I in RISC, intimacy. We call it shadow and gold, what intimacy really is and how you have a lot more of it. So just for short, how many of you would just love more intimacy in your relationship? And you're kind of baffled about why there is so little of it and how you can get more.
Anybody raising your hand out there?
Yeah. So let's talk about some misconceptions that exist about intimacy that actually prevent us from feeling really connected to our partners. So pay good attention, because there's some real gems in here.
So first thing, you might notice that when you think of intimacy, you think of it as being something you get from somebody else, from something your partner does or says, right? They say something about what they love about you. They look at you with adoring eyes. They touch you in a certain way. They do what you expect around the house.
Right. So basically what we do is, like, you make a certain picture in your mind about what an intimate experience should look like. Maybe we're cuddled up in my picture in my mind, right? Cuddled up, we're looking at each other, we got candles going, we're touching and whispering sweet words in each other's ears, you know? And mostly that's, you know, it's all nice and sweet stuff, of course. It's hardly ever, my picture, it never includes all the, you know, the bad and ugly part of the good, bad, and the ugly. That's not part of my picture at all.
Yeah, like your deepest fears, your shame, your secrets,
right,
stuff you're struggling with.
And then in our actual interactions, we have a tendency to compare our actual interactions with this picture I have in my mind of what real intimacy is. In reality, you know, our everyday interactions, they somehow just never measure up, really. So when we think of intimacy as matching a certain picture, something she does to me or with me or for me, it puts me in this position of always wanting her to do that thing. I got to get her, or you got to get your partner to do that thing that has me feel this lovely, sweet intimacy.
Yeah, it's like we're always wanting something other than what we have.
Right.
And when we do that, you know, so this is a really great visual display of what wanting looks like and feels like in relationships.
So here, we'll just shuffle around here a little.
So if I want more intimacy, right, it's like I'm pulling on him for change. And you'll notice, if you actually practice this on your own, you'll notice when I'm pulling, it produces resistance in the other person.
Yeah, what do you do if somebody grabs your arm and yanks on it? What do? You pull back, you resist.
Yeah, so it's kind of, it's a setup for me to keep wanting, right? But he almost has to resist or we're both falling over. And the same thing happens when we're complaining for change or when we're wanting more intimacy. We're actually producing the exact opposite of what we're wanting. Now, there's a reason for this. So I wanted to share, this is something I learned in a previous relationship, which was pretty big for me, actually, is I was wanting more intimacy. So I was saying a lot of things that we hear couples these days also say. One person will say to the other, I really want more intimacy. I really want more connection. I really want more passion. I really want more quality time. And one of the things that it occurred to me, it took me about 40 years to get this, is I realized in the middle of me saying, I want more intimacy, that I couldn't have an experience of intimacy while I was wanting it. Wanting and having cannot exist in the same space at the same time. So the whole time you are wanting a change in your relationship, whatever it is, more intimacy, more sex, more communication, more positivity, the whole time you're wanting it, you can't have it because wanting and having can't exist in the same space. It's Kind of interesting, huh? So it's kind of in my ideal picture, I'm actually being intimate. I'm having intimacy. I'm not wanting it.
Yeah. So how do we go about creating more of this? Well, we'll start with, we have this operating definition we use for the word intimacy, and it's into me, you see. Intimacy. So it's when we allow ourselves to be transparently seen by another, and we allow ourselves to be curiously interested and seeing someone else. Most of us are just waiting for the other person to get the ball rolling and do that thing.
I know, it reminds me actually of a newspaper cartoon clipping that I had on my refrigerator for a lot of years. It said, I want a deep, intimate, loving, totally honest relationship where we share our deepest fears and desires. You go first. A lot of us move that way in relationship. We're waiting for the other person, as we said earlier, right, to do something so we can finally feel intimate.
So in order to create more intimacy, be intimate. Be the first one to go. Share something that's real and maybe hard and maybe vulnerable about yourself and how you're feeling. Like, share everything, the good, the bad, and the ugly. The stuff that normally runs in your head only that you never say. Put the internal thing on external speaker.
Yeah, so here are some examples, right? You might say,
I had a really shitty day today at work, and I'm in a grumpy mood because of that. I had to pull a double shift, and yeah, I'm sorry I'm coming home in such a shitty mood.
I really like watching TV because it helps me relax. It helps me escape the painful noise in my head and get it to just shut up for a little while.
Yeah. I really miss having sex with you. I'm frustrated about it.
I'm feeling really scared right now, and I'm wondering if you would just hold me for a little bit. Adding in appreciations here works too. That's another really great way to create some intimacy and connection. God, I really loved that you helped me in the kitchen with dinner tonight. It just had me feel really close and happy with you when we were, cooking and singing songs together.
Yeah.
Every time you share something of your inner experience with your partner, they have a chance to know a little bit more about you, right? Into me, you see. It's not just this lovey-dovey intimate picture. It's sharing your insides with your partner.
Yeah, and when you do share your love, appreciation, or what you're scared or ashamed about, you inevitably feel as close to each other as you do in all the fantasies where it's all just candles and cuddling.
One of the places that this has shown up is, in sex, for example, in lovemaking, Christian and I will, if we have a wayward thought that's preventing us from being really with each other, we'll just stop and share it with each other. And I used to think that would have us feel less connected because,
like break the magic of the moment.
And actually, it's had us feel more close, more connected because we're sharing our insides. And, we can kind of, like the other person can say, thanks for sharing that. And it brings us closer and we can resume our lovemaking with even more presence.
Yeah, and I get to figure out also when she will share something like that, wow, I'm not the only one who thinks I'm an idiot or a loser in my head sometimes.
Yeah, so wherever you are, you can create more intimacy for yourself. You just want to be the one to initiate by being vulnerable and real. That sounded like I said be vulnerable and weird. No, be vulnerable and real, and be the one to help produce that instead of waiting for your partner to do it.
So here is your intimacy challenge or your intimacy tool. Is you simply take 5 minutes each and you share with each other. What you might not know about me is, and you say, whatever, and then you say it again. What you might not know about me also is, and that's it. You produce intimacy that way, putting your insights on external viewer and speaker. Great. So now let's talk about sex.
Why waiting for the right moment kills your sex and passion. So when you first fall in love with someone, you have a cocktail of hormones that are running through you that fire you up and drive you to be sexual with each other all the time, supporting you to biologically mate, right? And after some months or a few years, those hormones dwindle. And because you wanted to have a lot of sex once, you expect wanting sex to continue, and you expect that to be enough later on in your relationship to keep it going. But with the hormones gone, waiting until you both want sex at the same time, right? Waiting until you're both feeling close and the schedules line up, you have no other distractions, the kids are
gone,
right, they're asleep. It's like waiting for all the planets to line up. You know, that doesn't happen very often. And really, sex and intimacy are too important to the vitality, health, and success of a relationship to leave it to chance and those kinds of lucky circumstances.
You know, and in that way, sex is a little bit like exercise. You know, we feel better when we do it. If we quit doing it, we get out of practice. It's kind of hard to get started again. You know, it's a little bit like the use it or lose it that we say about many things. And just like exercise, you know, we often pretend it's okay if we don't make it a priority. And, you know, I'm not exactly dying yet. But there are consequences to not tending to our sex lives. And actually, one of the main reasons for people splitting up, whether they're married or not, is that the promise of love and sex and attention looks better with someone else because it's not being so present here. So sex is a key to having fulfillment and satisfaction and connection. It's kind of like the glue that keeps everything together, along with physical affection.
You know, so one thing that really helped us to make sex priority again, that we want to give to you, is to have a conversation with each other about what sex provides for you and for your relationship. Be honest about what sex gives you, and also honest about what's missing for you when sex is absent.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, you know, Christian and I, we actually noticed that when we aren't sexual for 4, 5, 6 days, we begin to feel a bit more out of sync with each other. You know, we actually are a tad more annoyed with each other, with life in general. We feel less connected and more stressed and tense. When we have sex again, we instantly feel more connected to each other, more attentive, present, more relaxed and happier, and overall really more vibrant and joyful.
I know we had a young couple who told us, they said, we always know when we have not had sex for too long, because that's when we can't do a high five. We keep missing each other.
Yeah, we actually feel more surrendered and more connected in life, and we notice we work better. Like really everything's sort of easier to produce and create once we are connected from sex.
And because we know all of this, how much it really provides, both, you know, not just to us, but actually to the people around us, to our families, to the people we work with, we make sure to make it a priority. So when either of us wants to be sexual, we endeavor to be a yes for it, because we remember all this. And if we can't do it right away, or we don't want to forever, we make it a priority to do it at least within 24 hours.
Yeah, we remember what sex gives us, and it is enough to get us over the hump. Like literally, it's a little bit like exercise. You know, we exercise because we know what it's going to give to our bodies and our health in the long run for us to take care of ourselves that way.
I know, and just like you know, with exercise, you know, sometimes it's really a hump to get started, to get yourself to the gym or your garage or wherever you do that. But once you're engaged in it, and afterwards, oh man, it's great. You're happy you did that.
Yeah, so you don't want to wait until you both happen to want to, right? You want to consciously choose to want to and to make sex a priority because of what it gives to the relationship.
Yeah.
And I want to say too, if you haven't been sexual for a long time and it seems like too big of a reach to go from nothing to full-blown sex, which is really true for a lot of couples when you haven't been sexual for a long time, you can start out much slower. You know, so maybe you don't jump right into genitals. You can start with a foot rub or a back rub. Like just start with some kind of touch and affection until you can create a safe space to be intimate with each other again. Yeah,
one of the things we go into in more detail in the actual RISC course is, you know, sex is not just intercourse. That is one out of a million ways to express and take care of our sexual desires.
So here's our sex challenge for you.
Yep. You simply take turns exploring what sex provides for me and for our relationship is. Look at all of it. And we want to say you can also add, what happens to me? How do I feel when I don't get to enjoy that? That's really great to add as well.
All right, last one here.
Communication, the C in RISC, more than words. So, you know, when couples come to work with us, I don't know, maybe 8 or 9 times out of 10, the first thing they say is, communication sucks. We can't communicate. We can't get our points across. We need help with communication. They don't feel seen or heard by their partners, and they have no effective skills for talking out a conflict. Now, as couples, when we talk to each other or when we fight, we tend to focus on the words that that are being said. That is what represents to us the communication. We argue about the details of who said what, who is accurate in their information, and who's right and wrong. And basically, we're fighting to get our partner to agree with our point of view. If I can get her to agree that she doesn't take me seriously anymore, I'm like, yeah, great. That's exactly what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, our attention is all on the words. Now, we've all heard tools like I statements, paraphrasing, don't use words like always, never. But in our work, we actually found that those tools were insufficient by themselves to really shifting our communication. And here's why. Communication is not just our words and what we say. It's as much about how we listen to what is said. So here are some examples. If I think you don't love me, then I listen to everything you say as evidence that you don't love me. If I think I have to do everything myself, I listen to everything you say as you being unwilling to support me.
If I go around thinking that, I just can't win with you no matter what, it doesn't matter what I do, then everything you say sounds like criticism. So think about it. Imagine your partner says, we don't have any time together. If I think I can never win with you, it doesn't matter what I do, then I listen to that like it doesn't matter how much time we have together, you're never satisfied. And I'm likely to either back off or defend myself. But if I'm going around thinking, I can win with you and you generally love me and want good things for me, then I can listen to that like you actually enjoy being with me so much that you'd like to be with me some more, which is pretty cool.
So for us to improve our communication, we need to shift how we listen. When Christian and I were first together and he was loving me so much, I noticed a part of me that didn't want to quite believe it. This thought that I was unlovable had me question his loving advances. And it didn't matter what Christian would do or say, as long as I was listening through the filter of I'm not really lovable, I couldn't really take in his love. And without realizing it, I was unconsciously, so none of this was up to consciousness, right? I was unconsciously looking for evidence to reinforce that he didn't love me and actually fighting to be right about it. Like I'd come in and say, oh, well, you don't really love me because, like I'd start to say things that were fighting to be right about how he didn't love me. I once heard this really great saying, you can only take in as much love as your self-esteem will allow. Right? So this is a really great example. For me to take in his love, I had to listen from I'm lovable. I had to have more self-esteem in order to be able to listen to his love. And I had to be wrong about how I wasn't lovable. So Christian and I kind of have a new goal in our relationship where we're not going for being right about all that junk, right? We're going for being wrong because we want to change in our communication as much the things we say as how we listen to each other.
So when you find yourself in a fight or disagreement or an argument, we want you to pay attention to what are you listening for? What are you fighting to be right about that you don't really want to be right about?
That your happy-ness is dependent on
like
being wrong about.
You heard me in the beginning in an example, fight to be right about that you don't care what I think anymore. Every time I say something, you just pick it apart. That's an example. So here's the communication challenge for you. Take turns asking each other many times, what are you fighting to be right about that you don't really want to be right about?
Yeah, what are you listening for in your communications? How are you listening to your partner that you're unconsciously reinforcing by looking for more evidence for?
Yes.
All right, so we have given you 4 challenges so far. We hope you take each of them on because we know they are going to make significant improvements in your relationship.
Yes, and also we want to acknowledge that that making lasting relationship improvements does require learning new skills and tools and steadily implementing them over time. You know, we humans, we're just more like plants than machines. It takes time for our bodies, minds, souls, and hearts and spirits to learn and to incorporate new material. You know, we're not just like, you know, the guys in the Matrix where you can go and I can fly the helicopter. It's not, although that would be great, it doesn't actually work like that. So if you like what you've experienced with us here so far in our time together, we want to invite you to participate in our 7-week online relationship course, the RISC course. So we're going to tell you a little bit about that. And I'll tell you just on a personal note that I was struggling in relationships for many years, and I really wanted to find a better way to do it. That was kind of my guiding thing. It was in my mind, there's got to be a better way. There's got to be a better way. This RISC course is that better way that I found. And it's condensed, so it's for long distance learning that you can do from the comfort of your home. And basically all you need is a phone or a computer, and you'll come hang out with us here in our home.
Yeah, from anywhere in the world. So the RISC course is a 7-week challenge that will pay lasting dividends for your relationship. In fact, you're going to find yourself, as we said before, right? You're going to find yourself learning, using what we give you in all of your relationships. People have taken what we teach actually and turned around, and you know, where they were expecting a demotion at work, they actually got a promotion and a raise instead. So there are many, many different ways that you can apply this material, as well as to dramatically improving your marriage.
Yeah, so here we'll take a few minutes to tell you about what is actually included in the RISC course. So here we go, the RISC course, Relationship, Intimacy, Sex, Communication, the essential 7-week online course for more love, more sex, and less fighting. In the RISC course, you're literally going to come hang out with us here in our home, and we're going to take you by the hand and show you exactly how to deal with creating a wonderful relationship, dealing with your conflicts, handling issues around sex, and a whole lot more. So we'll give you a quick overview of the 7 components that go into this course. So we start the course off with session 1. We call it a fresh start, how to create an extraordinary relationship foundation. And in this first session, you're going to discover how much power you actually have to create a relationship of your dreams. We're going to give you a practical way to see your partner with love again and set you on a new path of possibility for your relationship. And this is how any marriage or relationship should have started out from the very beginning. And even if you've been married for 30 years, this is how you reinvent your relationship from scratch.
Yeah, that first couple that we talked with you about who were already separated when they came to work with us, the material we gave them in this that we're going to give you here in session 1 was the turning point for both of them that allowed them to see each other with fresh eyes and start over in creating a new relationship. Session 2, the fulfillment formula. Eradicating complaint and criticism. So remember I talked earlier about wanting to having, right? Can't want and have at the same time, at the same moment. In this class, we're going to show you actually how to move from wanting to having. So instead of conflicts tearing you apart, you're going to learn how to use upsets to build intimacy and help you both get what you really want fast. You're going to understand in your bones that you and your partner are always wanting something good in every upset. We want to actually tell you about a story of a couple we worked with who practiced this. This is Jean and Mike. They've been married for over 20 years. They actually have a teenage son that they use this with as well. And they've gotten madly estranged from each other instead of madly in love. He used to tell us that he thought of her as his critical mother. And she used to say she was frustrated because he just wasn't there, like, you know, hello, anybody home? They also tried counseling, but they just couldn't make any lasting progress.
Yeah, one of the things that helped turn their relationship around was this materials that we share with you in session 2. They've been using this for a year plus now. And they just recently sent us an email from a vacation they took in Mexico. And Mike said, we kept being mistaken for honeymooners. And obviously, because how invigorated and touchy and in love they were, even after 20 years of marriage. All right, session 3, the true source of upset. This session is going to offer you one of our most powerful and life-changing tools. You know what it's like when you're happily going along and then your partner says or does something that just sets you off and triggers you and you feel all reactive. and you can't seem to break out of that? Well, in this session, we'll give you a great and radical new model of human behavior that's going to enable you to finally understand what's going on in this kind of trigger and to give you some control over your mind and your feelings. You are never going to see your upsets and triggers the same again after this session.
Yeah, I'll tell you, it is the one thing that allowed us to eliminate blame in our relationship is what we're going to give you here. Powerful, powerful tool that will change you forever. Session 4, accessing the gift in conflict. We really believe every conflict is a gift. Most couples hate or avoid conflict, but as you all know, right, problems not addressed or transformed actually erode the foundation of even the best relationships. So in this session, you're going to discover an empowering new approach. We actually invented this to deal with conflict that's going to enable you to harness the gift in every single problem you will inevitably face together as a couple. So even, you know, those places that used to show up as impasses, you're going to find resolutions to the most difficult and challenging of problems, you know, in such a way that you're never going to have to worry about the next conflict again. You know, you're going to know what to do.
Yeah, the kind of stuff where we start out on opposite positions. You know, it's anything. I want to spend money, you want to save them. I want to send our kids to this school, you want to send them to that school. I want to stay home, you want to go out. I want us to live in Florida, you want us to live in Wisconsin.
And this is exactly this tool that allowed us to create a fabulous weekend last weekend.
Yeah, I know. So here we'll tell you another story about Mark and Mary, who came to us on the verge of divorce after 30 years of marriage. They were so close, she had actually even planned on paper how she was going to do it and take care of herself. And they used these conflict resolution tools to create more intimacy and to deal with all the stuff that hadn't been dealt with up till that time. So she said, when I think that Mark and I were on the verge of possible separation a little more than a year ago, I'm amazed. The difference is truly incredible. We're so actively in love now, and it's all because of what we learned from you and the support and guidance you've given us. In 1 year, you've given us the most wonderful gift, the healing of my most important relationship. Wow, thank you. All right, that was Mary and Mark. Now session 5, the healthy masculine, how to win in relationship. You know, often it's not very easy being a man in relationship. You know, to avoid showing up as too powerful or an insensitive chauvinist sexist pig, basically, men often damp down their masculine force and they kind of tiptoe around their partner, waiting for their signals that it's okay to proceed. Unfortunately, this kind of tentativeness, rather than what is intended is to communicate sensitivity, to their partner's needs, it has the partner instead feel insecure and closed off and critical. So in this session, we're going to discuss how you men can show up with your full masculine force in a way that honors you and that is deeply satisfying and comforting to your partner.
I'll tell you, there are a lot of women who, and actually gay men as well, who really appreciate this particular piece. And for a lot of them, they will say, oh my God, this is what has been missing in our relationship.
I know we had a man who came to our work, and he was also a warrior brother in the Mankind Project. He said this, he said, I spent so much of my life moving tentatively with women. I held myself back. I believed that was the right way to be with them, was to be soft and sensitive. My relationships were often devoid of sex and passion, and I didn't know why. I was shocked to find out how much women craved and appreciated my masculine force. It just blew my mind. Now I'm in a wildly passionate, loving relationship where I finally get to be fully myself.
Yeah, so you definitely don't want to miss that particular piece. That's a powerful one.
All right.
Session 6, more better sex. So we're going to take the conversation we started here today and go a lot deeper with this, so you can learn how to create a passionate, fun, wild sex on purpose, even if you haven't been sexual for a while. We're going to show you actually that you can generate that and recreate that spark that used to happen by accident at the beginning of your relationship. So you can create it at will anytime you want and create the kind of sexual relationship that you really desire. We're also going to show you, which is a real common issue for a lot of couples, how do you deal with differing sexual preferences and desires? We're going to show you how to deal with those differences as they arise in a way that has you both win. And even if you haven't been sexual for a long time, it is possible to rekindle your sex life. Here's a couple that worked with us, Scott and Suzanne. They hadn't been sexual for 10 years and hadn't even shared bedrooms in a long time. And they revived their sex life from the tools that we gave them after a long dry spell. We also had another couple that worked with us who she wasn't even sure she wanted to be sexual again, frankly. She was like, I couldn't even be bothered with it. And from our sex material here and looking at a whole different approach to sex, they came to this place where they really got to see the importance of it. And she actually said to me, you know, we're having sex again. I want to do it now out of love, not out of obligation.
Yeah, awesome. All right, and finally, session 7, we call it From Me to We, co-creating phenomenal partnership. In this session, you're going to discover the essential ingredients for how to do love in a way that is sustainable over time. You're going to learn how to move forward as partners, rooting for and supporting each other to have what you dream of in your love and in your life. And in addition to this, actually here, yeah, that's what I wanted to say about the session 7, really. And I'll say from a personal note, that was a really big deal for me because I tend to move so much from me. I'm so focused on just me. Sonica, on the other hand, is so naturally focused on us and we that we've really been learning from each other how to balance out, how do we be a me, two me's, and a we. So that is what session 7 is all about.
And we're also going to show you how to do love. You know, love is something you can do, so you can recreate that experience of love anytime you desire. Yeah, so we invite you to join us. Like I said, if you've gotten value out of your time here, we're going to go into a lot more depth and help you up-level your love and sex life. And really, you've already accepted the RISC challenge. Why not join us for the RISC course challenge?
Yeah, and you can see on
this even deeper.
Sorry, you can see on the screen where to go for more information and to register, therisccourse.com. Yeah, and here we'll share a few comments with you from couples who already participated in the RISC course. So the first one here, every day we find ourselves using the language taught in the RISC course. It's completely changed how we view ourselves. This work has been the best investment we've ever made, and it's brought our lives and relationship to a whole new level of love, joy, and harmony.
And here's one we just got within the last week, I think. Since the RISC course last year, my husband and I have had lots of very painful but positive work. For lesson 1, one of the things you asked us is to write up a relationship vision for 5 years in the future. Almost every detail has come to pass. When he travels out of town, we greatly miss each other. We actually sleep in each other's arms every night we are together. Our intimacy is great. We communicate about things other than work and kids, huge, and have even become best friends. Last year, when I came to your course, I was so hopeless. I felt like it was Custer's last stand. But the communication tools we both learned have been incredible helps in turning our relationship around. I was ready to leave my marriage. Divorce had been filed on both sides. Property division was on the table. I really thought there was no hope. I just wanted to let you know that we have become a success story. I doubt my story would have ended this way without the information shared in the RISC course. So now we're starting a new marriage to the same person, but with better expectations, communications, and mutual respect. I can finally call my husband my best friend. Thank you.
Yeah.
So really, please do join us for that kind of profound difference for your own relationship.
All right, cool. So here we said in the beginning that we were going to share a powerful tip with you at the very end. And this is the very end. And we're going to share a very powerful and exceedingly simple tip with you that is so great. So the best tool to use with your partner to turn things around and can be used in all manner of tense situations is simply to say, thank you.
Thank you for loving me. Thank you for wanting me to be happy. Thank you for everything you give. Thank you for doing the laundry. Thank you for wanting to have sex with me. Thank you for going to work. Thank you for wanting us to work on our relationship and make it better.
Yeah, we actually shared this tool of saying thank you at one of our live trainings in the San Francisco Bay Area. And the next morning, Bill, he gave us permission to actually share this with you. He came up in front of the room and he shared his experience from the night before. And he said, this is a little paraphrased here. He said, we were in bed, we were going to sleep, and I was pissed, right? Because he really wanted to have sex. He didn't think he was going to get it. He said, I could feel myself wanting to pick a fight with her. But I remembered what you taught, so I knew that I didn't really want to fight, right? That was going to get me more of what I didn't want. Really what I wanted was to connect with her. Well, I didn't really know what to say. So then I remembered this tool. You said, just say thank you. So I said, thank you. Thank you for loving me. And it just shifted things. She told me later that my saying thank you really made a big difference for her. She softened, she opened up to me, we connected, and we ended up having sex. So saying thank you kept us from fighting and led to sex instead.
I know. So we know it sounds exceedingly simple, and try it out though. It is so efficient. And I tell you, Sonica and I have turned around many a moment that was about to be a tense one by simply doing that. Because well, maybe you don't, but we'll just tell you that no matter what your partner is doing, complaining, yelling, nagging, stonewalling, they're trying to accomplish something positive. In their way, whether it's an effective one or not, they're trying to accomplish something that feels good to them. So you can be sure it's something nice. Nobody ever wakes up in the morning thinking, I'm going to really mess up my relationship today, or I'm going to really piss off my partner all day today. We don't do that. We're trying to do good things. It just often doesn't work how we do it.
Yeah, and so saying thank you is a really great way of getting at that positive intent underneath there and appreciating the other person. So thank you for being with us today. We hope you got some really good stuff here out of being with us today, and we really appreciate you being somebody who's willing to accept and take on a challenge for your relationship. Yeah, so hey, if you want to hang out with us for 7 weeks and go a lot deeper with us, if you're inspired to join us, please do join us for the RISC course. As one man put it from our last live RISC course, when we taught these tools, he said, it's like Roto-Rooter for the heart.
So head on over to the RISC course page where you can register and find more information, therisccourse.com. All right, so here's Sonica and Kirsten. We're checking out for now. Thank you so much for spending your time with us. Thank you to the Mankind Project for making this whole thing possible, and to Michael and Boyson in the background making all the technology work.
Thank you, everybody. Blessings.
We will see you soon again, we hope.